Be intimidated, and you shall not intimidate me, bwana.
You know, I've been serving in this parliament for very many years.
I caught you by surprise. Karibu sana, this is the Morning Cafe. Karibu sana. We shall not be intimidated. If you're trying to intimidate us, chunga sana. Koma kabisa.
You're
Tell
a
them
newcomer.
koma kabisa.
Koma wewe.
Yeah, this is the Morning Cafe. Karibu sana. My name is Freddy Ndimuli. Exactly 71 days to Christmas. Kama una hesabu ya kuimaliza mwaka, 77 days.
All right, it is history, or rather international pregnancy loss.
Who
Remembrance
comes up
Day.
with such days?
No, but it's very, very...
Pregnancy laws?
No, as in, yes, pregnancy loss and infant loss. Like if you lost your pregnancy, miscarriage.
Or loss?
Yes.
Oh.
What did you hear?
Laws, like...
Loss.
Like kuna sheria za kukuwa pregnant.
Like unaona, if you had a miscarriage, now today is the day for you.
Okay,
the day set aside for you to remember that infant or baby that you lost.
Sorry if I sounded a bit insensitive there.
Yeah. My name is Anne Odida. This is Morning Cafe.
The headlines this morning, the Star begins with rifts emerging as Gachagua battles for Mount Kenya grip. I think this is the biggest political conversation today.
Now, my favorite headline this morning, of course, Duale, bully in chief.
I love the play of words. Tulikuwa tumesema standard ni kama wamekoma, sasa wamerudi. Drama bungeni, Kibagendi aliambiwa ni one time, achunge sana. Taifa Leo.
Killer linked to State House, Daily Nation.
People Daily inside Ruto's attempt to win the 2027 election. Of course, we understood he is trying to win it. I don't know. Okay, fine. But then again, it's an analysis.
Finally, Business Daily, KQ faces cash penalties for traveler flight delays.
All right. So yes, today we're going to be having this panel of analysts, Kevin Osido, Justina Omai, Mbugwa Mombi, and Mesha Kodede. This will be helping us take a look at the big headlines today. Of course, bully in chief and the politics in Mount Kenya. Coming your way at 6:30. Later.
Today is Relationship Wednesday. We usually have the youth here. We'll be talking about mentorship for mental wellness, peer power, with this gentleman and ladies. All
right. Let's go regional and take a look at what's headlining in Uganda. Campaigns continue, but at least the Daily Monitor imesonga kando ya maswala ya siasa. They talk about our debt burden in Uganda. They say it is worrying. Government figures show that Uganda's public debt stock has nearly tripled between 2018 and this year, with the debt burden per citizen rising from 1 million shillings, this is Ugandan money, hapana usipate heart attack, to about 2.5 million Ugandan money over the same period. So the debt to GDP ratio increased from 41.3% in 2018 to about 51.3% in 2025, indicating a growing debt burden relative to economic output. It should be noted, though, that at 51.3%, it's much lower than Kenya's debt to GDP ratio. I think we are at 65%, heading very close to 70-75%. Yes. So Ugandans waki complain our situation at sijui tuseme nini. Okay, our name features somewhere on the front page of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Produced Kenyan activists dead or alive, says court. So the High Court in Kampala yesterday gave the Ugandan government until October 21st, that's next Tuesday, to produce 2 Kenyan activists who went missing about a fortnight ago. Na ni kama imeamua hapo ndio teknolojia inakwisha. But even as we continue, that's the Daily Monitor. Let's take a look at the New Vision because we also do have it.
All right. Just a minute here it is. Now the New Vision talks about finance releases, 18.4 trillion shillings. And this story has been covered on page 8 of the New Vision. It talks about salaries, roads, PDM elections take lion's share. Other stories here, quick headlines. President Museveni campaigns in Maracha, Koboko, and there's a crowd here cheering him on. Anasema President Museveni was accompanied by the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, that is Mrs. Janet Museveni, and alongside other NRM leaders. Best teachers return from Ireland with new insights. Another story there on page 19. Matters judiciary here, new digital system to monitor judges' performance. Also, story mentioned here and the inside pages of this, page 12 to be specific. 2026 elections, what candidates pledge to do, campaigns zimenoga kule Uganda, covered on page 4 and 5. And this story, the first story we talked about, the finance release is 18.4 trillion shillings. It gives a breakdown of Q2 releases of 2025 and 2026, how money was used in salaries, roads, elections, took lion's share. All right, that's the new vision. I want us to cross over to Tanzania now.
Yes, from Uganda, and you can see it is actually how many days? That's a few months to election day. Yeah. But in Tanzania, they're counting down exactly 2 weeks to election day, 14 days to elections. And teknolojia leo ni kama inataka kutuchenga, lakini sisi ni nani? Sisi ni wale wale. Ngoja uone vile nda kufanyia wewe. All right, we start off with the Mwananchi Mpango. Misingi ya Nyerere isimamiwe. And yesterday they were marking 26 years since the founding father of Tanzania, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, passed on. And now they're really going back and looking at how Nyerere and his policies shaped how Tanzania views not just their own politics, but even globalization. So there was a lot of discussions even among church leaders on what should happen to the policies that Nyerere left. So misingi ya Nyerere isimamiwe. Awataka wa Tanzania, huyu ni Mpango, huyu ni kiongozi ni makamu wa rais, Daktari Philip Mpango, alikuwa kanisani jana. Awataka wa Tanzania kufuata mema yote aliyoyafanya Nyerere. Yaelezwa alikuwa mtu mwenye mwenendo wa huruma, upendo na uaminifu. Misingi ya urithi wa Mwalimu Nyerere, umoja wa kitaifa bila kujali kabila, dini au rangi. To date, Tanzania, despite the fact that they have more than 120 ethnic groups, hakuna ukabila huko Tanzania. Kenya tuko tu about 40 something. Wacha tu. Heshima kwa maadili ya uongozi na uzalendo, elimu kwa wote, alihimiza elimu kama chombo cha ukombozi kwa Watanzania wote. Miaka 26 tangu Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere aliwaaga wa Tanzania. Masuala ya siasa pia yanapewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili la Mwananchi kule Tanzania. Ahadi za Samia CCM kuchochea ukuaji uchumi kanda ya Ziwa. Na katika kampeni zake kanda ya Ziwa, mgombea wa urais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania kupitia Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM, Samia Suluhu Hassan, jana alikuwa Lake Victoria Region. Na anaendelea hii wiki ni kama huko Lake Victoria Region. Maeneo huko ya wanaitwaje huko? Upande mwingine. Hata Tarime iko hiyo upande. Karibu akaribia Kenya sasa. Akipanda bota anafika Siaya. Uchaguzi ni muhimu uwe unaojali ustawi na watu. Nani amesema hivi? Ni kauli ya Askofu Ruwaichi, akisisitiza haki, amani katika uchaguzi na anakemea matukio ya utekaji nyara. Na kama vile wanaendelea siasa za Tanzania, ukisoma magazeti yao utadhani ni Samia Suluhu Hassan peke yake ndio ana kampeni. Ni kama hakuna mwaniaji urais mwingine. Kumbuka wako 17, lakini Samia peke yake kwenye kurasa wa mbele. Siri kupakwa shilingi ya Tanzania Afrika Mashariki ni habari ambayo wanaendelea kuipa kipaumbele. Hata magazeti ya jana alikuwa na habari hiyo. Pale juu, HM Mnyika waitwa kotini kwa kudharau mahakama, na anasema uchaguzi mkuu Tanzania bado siku 14. Kwa hivyo kama ni masuala ya kampeni, siku 12 pekee zinasalia. Gazeti la Mwananchi.
Tukisalia kule Tanzania, The Citizen, benefits and drawbacks of door-to-door campaigns. And the door-to-door campaigns is praised for enabling direct dialogue and bringing politics to the electorate's doorstep, but it faces criticism for creating a private space that may increase the risk of undetectable bribery and other unethical practices compared to public rallies. The Citizen is not known to make mention of matters politics. Usually
to give it prominence.
Yes. Yes, to give it prominence. Usually it's matters business, lakini today it's the main headline here on the front page. Na anasema pale kwamba rallies attract attendees for varied reasons, including entertainment, but personal home visits secure the voters' undivided attention, creating an ideal setting for discussing substantive policy issues. So anaenda kwa nyumba ya mtu anagonga kwa campaign.
Wow. Unajua sasa ile kupiga kelele kwa barabara na kaju ya magari hiyo sasa washamaliza sasa. Sasa ni uende uconvince mtu one on one. Tafadhali nipigie kura. Na kama uko na kitu kidogo namwambia nunua mboga.
That's what is on page 11, only in Tanzania. Mpango calls on youth to uphold Nyerere's legacy of national unity. We've talked about that. It's the Tanzanian's Vice President, Dr. Philip Mpango, and he's right here with the Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Mbeya. Why government deported 2 foreign nationals is another story covered on page 2. Office dress code dilemma spars roadside clothing rental business.
Kumbe huwa muna rent nguo. Unajua hapa ndio I didn't know. You know, this is something new. This is a totally new concept to millennials especially.
Yeah.
That kumbe hivi unaona watu wanavaa manguo tofauti kila siku. It is not, they do not get to own the clothes. They just rent them out.
Actually, the millennials renting these clothes.
It's millennials, not Gen Zs.
It's millennials right now. Now you know everything has changed. No Gen Zs renting them. It's the millennials and these content creators who are...
they're renting clothes.
Yeah, it's not bad. So you're paying money for that. You're giving out money, you're giving the dress, you wear it. Ukimaliza, you return it.
Alafu unanunua ingine kesho.
Yes.
Una rent nyingine kesho.
You rent another and the cycle continues.
That's a very interesting concept, to be honest.
This is news to you guys. Tanzania innovation set to transform patient care and hospital management is another story covered on page 3. Her political platform there, peace mission, is Trump's shock and all policy sustainable. Matters international pale. Hii imefurahisha sana.
Mimi niko na suti 3. Nitazivaa hadi mchoke. Mimi nyingine shida yenu. I'm not going to rent a suit.
But even if you rent, we wouldn't even notice that you rented. But you know, for ladies, it's quite evident.
You don't even know if I wear the same suit every day.
And let me tell you something.
My 3 suits have served me for over 7 years.
You know, for ladies, even if they rent it, they don't rent, like, you can't rent a suit like this. Yeah. Like, they rent something that, not a
that will stand out.
Something that stands out. Okay. Let's put it like that.
Okay, interesting. That's a Citizen.
Yeah.
Now, these are the local and regional dailies. Of course, we've just done the highlights on the local ones. We'll be back to take a look at them in depth in a short while. For now, tuangazie masuala ya hali ya anga. Niliona jana ni kama the weatherman gave an indication that we should be expecting a lot of rainfall in the coming days. Remember, we're in October, so we do expect the short rains to be prevailing, but not much. We are not seeing a lot of that. Na hapa hatukufaa kwanza na Nairobi sababu tulikuwa tuende Wajir. Tuone ni nini inafanyika kule. Alafu teknolojia ikajaribu kutuchanganya kidogo. But in Wajir, it's quite warm this morning. 24 degrees asubuhi. Feels like 26. Highs of 35 degrees, which is, I think, is the highest we'll see across the entire country today. In as far as precipitation is concerned, we don't expect any rainfall at all in Wajir. It is quite warm, and this will continue into next week. No chance of rainfall at all in Wajir. Lake Victoria region today, nimerudia Kisumu, lakini sawa tu hata Kisumu ni wanasema nini Kisumu?
19 degrees in Kisumu this morning. It feels like 20 degrees. It's a cloudy day here. Highs of 29. Precipitation in Kisumu, 1.4 millimeters. It will definitely rain today in Kisumu.
All right.
And 29 degrees will persist throughout the week into next week. Next week itakuja 28 kidogo, but... Na naona pia next week kuna mvua. According to the weatherman amesema, munafaa kuwa mna experience mvua in most parts of the country. Let's go to the Rift Valley and we take a look at Naivasha today. It is 11 degrees as we speak right now. Feels even cold at 10. It's a partly cloudy day. A bit of precipitation expected on the later part of the day. Highs of 23 degrees. And as far as precipitation, 0.4 millimeters. It's much lower than what we saw in, what was the other place in Kisumu. And this highs of 23 will persist into next week, where at least next week we expect a little bit more rainfall in the Rift Valley. The eastern part of the country where President Ruto is expected to be touring for the next 1 week or so. Remember, Mashujaa is coming up and it will be hosted in Kitui. 19 degrees in Makueni this morning, if it's like it. It's a cloudy day. Highs of 31. It's a very hot day in Kitui today. Hapa precipitation hakuna. Okay, 0.1 hakuna. That is nothing.
31 yenyewe.
Very, very hot. Na hii ni hadi next week.
Kuna wakati next week itagonga 34.
Makueni
ni kama Garissa.
Twende Coast.
Coastal region 24 degrees in Diani this morning. Feels like 27 hata sifikiri Nairobi tutafika. Lakini it feels like that. It's a cloudy day in Diani. A bit of precipitation despite the warm weather expected this morning. Highs of 28 degrees. This 28 will persist for the rest of the week where we'll get sunny intervals into next week. But a bit of precipitation expected today, 1.1 millimeters, which is very close to what we've seen in Kisumu as well. Finally, Nairobi.
15 degrees this morning. It feels like it. I think this is the warmest we've experienced so far in the morning. It's a cloudy day. Highs of 27 degrees. Precipitation in Nairobi is 0.7 millimeters. So kutakuwa na showers kidogo.
Here Nairobi, nakwambia by 2 p.m., 3 p.m., you'll not be able to sit outside. 27 degrees is quite high even for the city. Yes.
So 27 degrees today and tomorrow. Itashuka to 25 thereabout next week.
Quite a warm day in Nairobi and other areas of the country. Let's take a look at the traffic situation. Tuone wanasema namna gani hapa.
15 minutes past, it's 16 minutes.
16 minutes past. Na leo ni kama tumechelewa kidogo. Technology inatusumbua kidogo, and of course you can already see the problem. Pale Pangani interchange, it's building up nicely. It's extending a bit to the Mathare Mental Hospital, meaning that yes, there could be some major traffic on Thika Road, but the rest of the Thika Superhighway is clean, at least as far as Ruiru is concerned coming into town. Outer Ring Road, interestingly, it's looking green both sides of the road at this time of day. Jogoo Road, nothing out of the ordinary, Makadara, but after that it's green all the way into town, including areas like City Stadium and Machakos Bus Station. Haile Selassie Avenue building up slowly next to the railways roundabout. Mombasa Road, Langata Road, Southern Bypass, Ngong Road and Wayaki Way as well looking green. So leo ni kama Wednesday ikifika traffic iko sawa, ni watu tu wa Thika Road na Kiambu Road ndo wako choka block pale Pangani.
All right, let's have the quote of the day.
It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you don't stop.
All right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies. Welcome back, and we take a look at the Star today. We start with this one, and yes, the President, Commander-in-Chief W.S. Ruto mwenyewe amevaa pale military fatigues. And niliona a lot of discussion online on whether they were just comparing the looks, different presidents who have worn. I think it's only President Mwai Kibaki who never, ever tried to wear military attire. Not the official attire, not the military fatigues. We've seen President Uhuru Kenyatta do that. We've seen President Daniel Moi, at least the official dress, the official military, the red and black. President Kenyatta, the first one, Jomo Kenyatta, also wore the official one. But in as far as military fatigues are concerned, the jungle dressing, it's President Uhuru Kenyatta loved this. Now William Ruto finally does it in his first term. I think Uhuru did it in his second term. I don't know, not so sure. Let me not commit myself. But yeah, how do you rate the look? How do you rate it out of 10?
Out of 10, 10. I think 10.
10 out of 10?
10 out of 10.
Okay, not so bad.
Yeah,
Angebeba ile fimbo ya nini? Commander-in-Chief. Well, not so bad. Ruto dons military fatigues in honor of Kenya defenders. That's a story given prominence on the front page of the Star. But the story ambayo imepewa kipaumbele kabisa ni masuala ya siasa kule Mount Kenya. Rifts emerge as Gachagua battles for Mount Kenya grip. He's involved in a spat with the Kirinyaga governor, Anne Waiguru, as well as the Embu governor, Cecily Mbarire. Anang'ang'ana watu wanawaambia achana na kina mama. Alienda akasema hapa Kirinyaga. You know, there are women who came out on the road the other day. Wakasema Gachagua hawezi ingia Kirinyaga. Jana alikuwa Kirinyaga akasema hapa ni bedroom.
Naniambia nini?
But the question is, this is a growing list of rivals, which is exposing deep fissures in the region. And the question is Gachagua opening up too many war fronts for himself? Kumbuka hata within the united opposition, wana malumbano na Matiang'i, wanasema nini, usifanye nini, usiingie wapi. Sasa hata kule wanang'ang'ana na magavana. That's a story on pages 4 and 5. It is the main discussion there. We'll be looking at it with my analysts. The other story is what happened the previous day in State House. State House GSU officer died from bleeding after arrow-pierced heart. Now the suspect there being led to the courts and the victim who passed on after that arrow attack. Apparently they were friends. And we'll be seeing that in another paper. The other story there, of course, what happened in Parliament yesterday as the health CS Aiden Duale appeared before the Health Committee. MPs lay bare sharp flaws as CS Duale defense program. Waliambiana bwana wewe usinistue. You cannot intimidate me. And it reminds me a few years back. Kuna jamaa mwingine pia, there's a CS who appeared before parliamentary committee. And then one of the MPs there was shouting, "Are you threatening this committee? Are you threatening this committee?" So it keeps happening after a few years. Meanwhile, Ruto has appointed Eliud Owalo to lead new government office for efficiency. That story is on page 2. The Star, fresh, independent, different. Today it's not free. Lazima ukuwe na 60 bob. I'm 1,000 shillings ukiwa Tanzania.
So that's what Owalo does?
No, he was the deputy. He was the deputy in charge of
it.
Now, there's a different unit that is now leading.
All right.
That's the Star.
Sawa. The Standard. Bully in chief, Duale. Public spat. Tempers flared in Parliament as Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale clashed with members of Parliament during a stormy Health Committee session, trading insults and accusations of intimidation. Now, the dramatic exchange, which saw lawmakers walk out in protest, laid bare deep tensions over the troubled Social Health Authority, with members of Parliament accusing the minister of arrogance and contempt, while he dismissed them as junior members unfit to question him. Duale is one of a kind, because I have attended parliamentary health committees, and I've never seen a cabinet secretary akiletanisha the parliamentary committee, either the way Duale did yesterday. Right now, this parliamentary committee is being led by my member of parliament, area member of parliament, James Nyikal. Na aliambiwa jana na Kibagendi, you're being intimidated by this man, Aiden Duale.
Do you think that accusation was valid?
I think it's valid because Robert Bukose, the former committee chair, I don't think he would have allowed that. You know, Bukose was alikuwa anawaambia, I am the one leading this, you're out of order, I will tell you to go out. That is if you're the cabinet secretary and unaongea above him.
Yeah.
So,
but you know the thing with Duale, he's been majority leader in the National Assembly. I think whenever he appears before MPs, it still feels like they're junior to him. Like, I've been your leader. There's nothing you can tell me.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know parliamentary procedures better than you. After all, Kibagendi is in his first term. I don't really think it has anything to do with his position as health CS. It's only that he feels when he comes to parliament, I've been here for the longest. Nyinyi watoto, hakuna kitu mnaniambia. I know these things.
Wenda home. Na amesema, he said yesterday that akirudi Garissa, right now, watu wa Garissa watamrudisha tena kwa member of parliament.
And you know what? He's actually very right.
Well, Aden Duale, najua aliletanisha sana pia na Cynthia Muge. Kaambia Cynthia Muge, wewe ni ukama hapa. Don't talk to me like that. And
that thing of being newcomer, because I saw Kibagendi also attacked a few weeks back by the MP for Homa Bay Town, Peter Kaluma. Because Peter Kaluma was on his feet in Parliament and trying to contribute, then Kibagendi tried interrupting and he was told, you're a first-time MP, you cannot block me, you cannot say anything, keep quiet, shut up.
You know, at least Kibagendi is active. Kibagendi is actually doing a very good job because he's asking questions that needs to be asked.
There's a lot of bullying even in Parliament. Ilya Form 1.
Yeah.
This is your first time here. Usiongewe ni fresher.
This public spat overshadowed the issues the minister was supposed to respond to, and Duale dismissed the leaders, telling one of them, that is Cynthia Muge to be specific, that she was too junior to question him in the manner she did. This story has been covered on page 6. Unaweza soma zaidi. It's a very interesting story here. He was being asked about the ambulance services and the underfunding that the vulnerable groups are currently receiving in Shaw. Other quick headlines here. Our father has anger problems. That is, relatives described Kithika Kimunyi as a troubled loner whose actions hinted at mental instability. Due to the interest of time, on the back page, who will be voted the track athlete of 2025? And this is between Beatrice Chebet, Faith Kipyegon, and Emmanuel Wanyonyi. They were nominated for track athletes of the year awards. That's the Standard this morning.
All right. From the Standard, we take a look at Taifa Leo. Habari ni ile drama bungeni. Duale asema mbunge anachemka kwa sababu za mgongano wa maslahi, ile inaitwa conflict of interest. Kibagendi adai waziri anafyonza umma. Uhasama kati ya waziri wa afya Aden Duale na mbunge wa Kitutu Chache Kusini Anthony Kibagendi ulijitokeza waziwazi Jumanne waliporushiana cheche za maneno wakilaumiana moja kwa moja bungeni. Kikao hicho kilitibuka baada ya naibu mwenyekiti wa kamati pamoja na wanachama kuondoka. The question is, because we have a lot of questions with regard to SHA, and the only person who can answer is a CS. Our representatives in parliament are the MPs who are supposed to question him, because we have no other way of questioning the CS. But when such a session fails to go through, then questions remain unanswered. Inamaanisha zile swali tuko nayo, yale maswali tuko nayo kuhusu SHA hayatajibiwa. Sasa nani ana benefit hapa? Pengine ni CS, sababu hajajibu maswali na ameenda. Sema mmekasirika.
Aliambiwa wewe you're a thief. Uliona mwenye anambia you're a thief.
Ndio habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Kwingineko, vidokezo zaidi na sira kosolewa kuhusu tamasha. Waandalizi wa tamasha wataka kaunti sijitenge na sherehe hizo. Ni ile sherehe ilikuwa pale Chuda, ambapo it turned tragic. One of the boats capsized, leading to the death of at least 3 people. And then the county government was quick to say, hey, in fact, we were not there. In fact, even my deputy was invited, but he did not show up. Yet previously, they've been part of that festival. Mbona unaruka sana hivyo? Futi 200. Yeah. Kule Cameroon, mpinzani wa Bia ajitaja mshindi. Mgombeaji urais wa upinzani Issa Chiroma ajitangaza mshindi wa uchaguzi kule Cameroon. Paul Bia pia anawania urais. Yeye ndio current president at 91. Anasema anafaa kuendelea 92. Alafu hata hawezi show up for campaigns, wanatumia some zinaitwaje effigies. Pale juu watahiniwa wa 400 retain kusalia nje. Mahakama Kuu yakataa kuamuru mkuu wa shule kuwarudisha shuleni. Wale watakosa kufanya exam. Na Cape Verde wafuzu kwa FIFA 2026. Meanwhile, sisi tuliondoka kitambo. Lakini jana tulizabwa mabao 3-0 na Ivory Coast. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Daily Nation, killer linked to State House. Twist, tragic end to unusual friendship forged at President's residence. Now, slain GSU officer Ramadan Matanka was the son of a former State House employee. He first worked at the state residence after completing high school in 2019 during a cleanup campaign where he met and befriended Kithuka Kimunyi. Later, he joined the elite squad, getting the premises where his life was cut short. This story has been covered on page 4 and 5. Kimunyi has been denied a bond and he is currently, what is it called? Amefungwa kwa sasa, ako under police custody still. Commander-in-Chief Ruto outlines plan to modernize KDF and President pledges new military bases, upgrade of equipment and addressing soldiers' welfare to boost war on cybercrime and terrorism. Other quick headlines here. Most popular senior school pathway. KJSE inaanza officially on 27th of October, just in 2 weeks' time. They're already selecting the pathways to the senior school. 3 pathways: STEM, social sciences, and arts and sports. On the back page, that story about the awards. Kibagendi Chebet Stella season demands Athlete of the Year title. And they say they have been nominated for the Track Athletes of the Year awards. That's the Daily Nation this morning.
All right, from the Daily Nation to People Daily, inside Ruto's attempt to win the 2027 election, and they break down the president's playbook. State House outreach, Mount Kenya focus, regional balancing development as politics, Somali vote block. They just look at the different things that the president is doing, which clearly are part of his plan to, as he seeks re-election come 2027. The latest, of course, bringing together what is termed as the dynasty 3. Him becomes 4. Kenyatta, Odinga, Moi, now Ruto. You know, actually, those are the families that have run Kenya. Kenyatta, twice. Moi. Okay, Odinga has never run Kenya. How come Kibaki wameachwa nje? Kibaki waja qualify kuwa dynasty. Aite Jimmy Kibaki, wapate dynasty proper. Yeah, that's a president's playbook, and that story is on page 4 of this paper. The only other story features, the highlight features on the bottom strip, from love words to harsh words, Gachagua's big shift. There's a big discussion. Rigathi Gachagua, the former deputy president, has always been accused of being very abrasive in his politics. And that appears to be rubbing very many people the wrong way. Many people cannot stay too long with him. After a while wanasema hapana, ule jamaa tunashindwa, tunajaribu tunashindwa. Ule ana ukali mwingi, tunashindwa tu. Alisema jana Kirinyaga ni bedroom. That's the People Daily.
Finally, Business Daily. KQ faces cash penalties for traveler flight delays, and a regional competition watchdog wants airlines operating within the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, that is COMESA, to compensate passengers with cash payouts of up to 77,540 shillings for flight cancellations and delays amid a surge in travelers' complaints at Kenya Airways. Kenya Airways watu wamecomplain sana about KQ. That story is on page 2. And NCBA shares hit all-time high on Standard Bank buyout offer. Another story on page 2. On the ticker, Kenyan passport drops 6 places on lack of visa waivers. Court allows CMA, that is the Capital Market Authority, to investigate 8 Kakuzi directors. And finally, CBK increases gold holdings by 40.8%. That's the Business Daily.
All right. Just a reminder that I will be having these 4 individuals in studio to discuss the headlines today. Kevin Osido, who is a governance specialist. Justina Omai, champion for economic democracy. Mbogwa Mombi, who is a leadership consultant. And Mesha Kodede, political commentator. In a few minutes' time, do stand by for that. Just a reminder, at 8 a.m. we'll switch conversations and talk about matters peer power, mentorship for mental wellness. Do stand by for that conversation as well. Tuangalie karakacha sasa. Tunaanza na katuni ile iko kwenye ukurasa wa mbele, si ukurasa wa mbele, ndani ya gazeti la Daily Nation.
This is Matters Cameroon hapa. Elections in Cameroon took place on Sunday, 12th of October. Lakini, I think they're saying Paul Biya usually, he's the longest serving. Is Cameroon in Africa?
Yes.
40 years. 41 years. You know, Jamaica wanasema is not in Africa. So I was trying to imagine ile Cameroon inakuanga Africa kweli. This is the longest serving African president. 41 years, I think since 1980 something.
So they show the track and is the one running kule nyuma ni yeye, running against him na niye bado anajisaidia hapa.
Every year anashinda with a very big margin.
Lakini wanasema opposition leader amejideclare winner.
Yes.
So could be anaweza shindwa this time round.
Washakata. Wamesema hapana, we refuse that. But elections will be announced on 20.
The results, official results.
Yes, results on 20.
Why do they take so long?
Did I say election will be announced?
Why do they take so long? If elections were held on Sunday, 26 is next week.
Wameenda court.
All right,
yeah.
That's a cartoon on the Daily Nation. The one on the Standard has 4 frames. 2 people having conversations here. So one says, should any leader found to be corrupt resign? And the lady answers yes and no. Why? Yes to allow investigations, and no because not a single leader will be left in government or opposition, meaning that all leaders are corrupt. And we can't even afford a general election right now. Yeah, so tuwaache tu sababu we can't afford an election. But they're all corrupt. That's according to this cartoon.
This is the Star. One more to go. Hiyo kuvuruta dynasties. There's one dynasty here, yeye ndiye anaendesha wheelbarrow. Lakini dynasties wengine washaingia. They are right, they're 5. They want one more to come in.
One more to go. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're being unfair to this gentleman.
Listen.
They're opening saying, ngoja uone, si anakuja. Ngoja uone, sisi ndo tunajua.
Akienda na venye ashasema haendi.
Every day, and I think even the cartoonists wanachoma, wanakaa wakisema, huyu jamaa wa Wiper lazima ataingia kwa hii wheelbarrow. Huyu pia anajiangalilia huko kando, huyu dynasty mwingine anaitwa Kenyatta.
That's
just now. And finally, People Daily, political class deciding for us. That's what was there on the front page yesterday. It was our biggest conversation. Political leaders seated around a table. The rest of you, mkae huko kando, tutawaambia vile tutapanga. Ni kazi yenu ni kupiga kura, sisi ndo tuna decide, lakini tutawaambia vile kutaenda. That's the People Daily.
All right, these are the stories making headlines locally and regionally as well. But do interact with us on our socials. TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. On X at TV47 Digital. My handle on X is at @Ann_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe TV47.
My handle on X is at Fred Indemoli. See you after the break.
is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Aurora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora.
We are not your kids here to come and unatusomea kama watoto wako.
It was a fiery exchange between Health Cabinet Secretary Duale and Kitutu Church's South MP Anton Kibagendi.
My kids are not, and we will not. You are a hostile witness.
My kids, we will not. At the House Health Committee, the exchange escalated into chaos on Tuesday after several members of Parliament accused CS Duale of attempting to intimidate members of Parliament who sought to ask tough questions regarding the ministry's operations.
And we will charge you the strategy you used to try and we will charge you. You need to answer questions.
The confrontation between the two was witnessed as Duale repeatedly called the lawmaker an extortionist, while Kibagendi accused the CS of evading accountability.
I don't own a hospital. You are the people stealing from SHA. You and your friends. Bring your impeachment. You are saying you expect to bring your impeachment just because we're asking you questions.
We'll ask. The CS is accusing the MP of conflict of interest, alleging that the ministry had already shut some hospitals that were linked to the lawmaker, adding that the MP would face charges in court.
We will write to the speaker. Produce evidence that our facilities. You are the one who should not in this ministry. Your company is stealing from SHA. We will write to the speaker. You should not be in the health committee because of conflict of interest.
Kibagendi, however, insisting that he does not own any hospital in the country and accusing Duale of politicizing the matter. The MP hit back at Duale, accusing him and his allies in the health ministry of engaging in corruption and defrauding the Social Health Authority, SHA. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
All right, so that's a big discussion this morning. A lot of questions need answers with Social Health Authority. But that's the level of conversation we're having in our Houses of Parliament as MPs seek or are trying to seek answers to those questions from the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Health, Aden Duale. This is a kind of drama we're being entertained to. That serious national conversations are reduced to this kind of drama, to this level of exchanges, and at the end of the day, nothing comes out of it. Duale, bully in chief, is a big story there on the front page of the Standard. And that's where we start this morning. Allow me to introduce my panelist, Kevin Osido, governance specialist. Bwana Osido, karibu sana. It's good to have you back on Morning Cafe after a long time.
After some sabbatical.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Karibu sana.
And to have conversations that matter to the nation.
Next to Bwana Osido, we have Justina Omai. She was here last week. Karibu sana again, champion for economic democracy. It's good to have you back in studio.
Morning, Fred.
And for the very first time on Morning Cafe, Mbogwa Mumbi, leadership consultant. It's a pleasure to host you in studio for the first time. Karibu sana.
Pleasure to being here. Thank you.
Asanteni sana. So this is not the first time we've seen this kind of drama in Parliament. But the question is, do you feel that even the National Assembly or our houses of legislation lost the moral authority to actually even question or even get proper answers from members of the cabinet, given the fact that they've been accused of ceding too much ground to the executive?
This is quite unfortunate and really disturbing to our country, particularly at a point in time when Kenyans are asking for accountability, and a point in time when we also are celebrating close to 14 years of our Constitution of Kenya 2010 that really espouses the expectations that Kenyans have around and concerning their leaders. And if you look at Article 10, Chapter 6 of our Constitution, really speaks boldly about leadership and integrity and therefore the values that we expect from our leaders. The sad thing is that what we saw between the Cabinet Secretary and the Member of Parliament National Assembly is really unfortunate. But much more unfortunately, again, is that is what we have seen in the past. And before we started, we were just thinking about the late MP Gorsungu, who one time while he was chairing the committee on the investigations of the late Minister Robert Ouko, asked one cabinet minister whether he was threatening the committee. And, he was very emphatic around that. Now, if you listen to the kind of conversation that is going on, and important questions need to be asked. And that is where you began the discussion. And you are asking, sure, because a member of National Assembly, Kibagendi, my friend, has the right to ask the Cabinet Secretary important questions. But if you go further and listen to the kind of discussion they are having, these are people who apparently know each other because they are shouting at extortion issues. He's saying, it is your people, we are going to take you to court. And the MP is also telling him, we know your facilities, etc. Which in my view, really did not need to come out at that particular point in time. Because Kenya also has a very strong law on conflict of interest that therefore need to be given the space and room to be able to be exercised and adjudicated. And so for people who are interested in leadership and accountability, it would be important for us to move further this discussion and ask the Cabinet Secretary to raise those particular concerns that he has over Anthony Kibagendi in a much more formal manner. And as he's saying, we will take you to court. We want to see that court process taking effect so that people who are taking advantage of where Kenyans expect to get services like SHA or universal healthcare and etc. and reasons why it is not working properly should therefore be raised. And if Mheshimiwa Kibagendi also has issues over the CS on conflict of interest, he needs to really bring them out and raise them. But as I finish, it is not good for Kenyans to be taken through this kind of drama, because in my view it is drama. Parliament is a house of honor. It is also a house of order. In fact, it is called an august house, which means that there is certain expectation of respect that is given to those kind of houses, and that the discussions that come out of that place, because they are also being recorded in the Hansard, then can be used even in a court of law. They can be quoted somewhere, and that they can therefore be able to inform very important ongoing discussions.
Thank you, Sido, for that. But Justina, let's take a look at the different angle. There's a level of toxicity, even in how our parliament operates. The suggestion here, according to the Standard, is that the CS is actually a bully. There's a CS who served as majority leader in the same house. Of course, he feels, I understand this place better. I've served as a member of parliament for more than one term. I understand parliamentary procedures better than you. That level, that kind of feeling that I'm entitled, I know these things. And so Kibagendi, being an MP in his first term, cannot ask me any question. That is a level of discourse that we are entertaining ourselves to, even through the representatives of the people. Do you agree that, yes, in as far as houses of legislation are concerned, it's just a toxic environment?
It's a toxic environment, and I want to disagree with Kevin and say it's a good thing Kenyans are being treated to this, because who do we vote for? Kenyans always vote for a wave. Kenyans vote for money and handouts. Kenyans don't even want to know beyond the campaign. If you listen to Kenyans, they say Kevin is able to remove Justina. Beyond to remove, there is no other conversation. So it's a good thing we are seeing what happens now to the choices we make. But let me say that after Justin Muturi told us that during the vetting committee he had been asked for money, clearly, I have a feeling that maybe even this committee had asked Duale for money, and he refused because he's a ranking member. So the animosity, the bitterness, and the acrimony might have stemmed from the fact that maybe he didn't give them something. Additionally, I want to say that when the CS says that even if I'm impeached, I'll go back to Garissa, it shows you that these people can never thrive out of politics. Yet, in those positions, he's saying he's been in parliament for over 20 years, whatever years, he has failed to make other sectors thrive. His role there was to influence legislations that allow other sectors, apart from politics, to thrive. So I think that Kenyans should also demand for more, beyond the handouts, beyond the wave, beyond the campaign, Yakata na Shoka. We need to go beyond that and look for that decorum. And it won't come from just voting in people who have spent money. I always say that as long as someone gets to parliament or to that position without feeling that your vote is of value, then they'll disrespect us. Okay. Yes.
Yet the Constitution and our provisions in as far as the appointment of cabinet members, Bwanambugwa, was that it was going to do away with this instances where MPs end up, or former MPs end up as cabinet ministers, that probably the president would have focused on getting technocrats who would be more willing to provide answers to members of parliament. Having older members of parliament showing up to before people they presume are their juniors is not going to work. It is not just Duale. Any other senior person who's been in parliament may not be willing to answer to junior members, don't you think?
Thank you very much. The state of the nation is the state of the leadership. It is the state of the morality of the leaders. A constitution is just a container that guides the leadership of a nation. But if the container lacks the content, where are we headed to? I think for the few years I've lived in this world and in this country, we have a leadership that is totally devoid of morals. A leadership who seems to be, the main objective is its personal gain, such that as a leadership consultant, and I want to speak for Wanjiko, we are sick and tired of being sick and tired of this leadership. Because they made a lot of promises, but nothing has been achieved. Let me put something into perspective. And I came with this egg specifically because there's a leadership concept I would want to strongly bring out on the table. You see, when you talk about the purpose of leadership, because I think the biggest challenge we have in this country, or with our leaders, is that leadership is misconstrued, is not understood. Because I think the cardinal role of a leader, number one, is to take care of the people. And that demands empathy. That demands that you feel them wananchi, and you appreciate their needs, and you meet their needs. The second cardinal responsibility is to grow them So you're talking about stewardship in leadership. I'm reading a book called Dare to Turn Your Soul Inside Out. Dare as a leader, by an American lady called Burgess. And she says that great leadership, which is also referred to as either servant leadership or legacy leadership, is about planting trees, clearly knowing that you may never enjoy the shade of the trees that you're planting or even eat the fruits. It is planting trees for posterity. But what do we see in our leaders today? It's not that they're planting trees. They're even cutting the trees that were planted by the previous leaders for personal aggrandizement. And therefore, we're calling upon our leaders, honestly, at least for once, to have the feelings, to have the morality of leadership, because the country is suffering. So, you see, this wanton disrespect of the Constitution tells us one thing. It was not about Wenjiko. It was not about Atieno or Otieno. It was about me. And that is why it doesn't surprise us to see a leader backing down from leadership for preservation and protection of their dynasty.
All right. Yet the Constitution was supposed to remedy this. The fact that the executive is supposed to be checked and is supposed to be held accountable by the houses of legislation. What we saw yesterday is descriptive of the kind of relationship we have between the houses of legislation and the executive, that the CS can appear and not answer any question and sit there arrogantly and tell you there's nothing you can do to me. And the MP was forced to exit. And he even suggested that the chair was unable to even conduct this session. At the end of the day, wanasema mkutano ulitibuka, the MPs walked out, and no question was answered. Who failed here? The executive is supposed to stand its ground. Do you believe, or do you agree, that it is the National Assembly that has lost its standing to actually question anyone?
Fred, in our current dispensation, there is no mechanism even for summoning, quote-unquote, cabinet secretaries to the legislature, to the National Assembly. In fact, in my view, it is an honor which now turns to be a dishonor in the manner in which we saw conversations going on. And so we really have to push further in terms of strengthening the mechanisms of accountability. Parliament has continuously been dishonored, really. In fact, when Kenyans went to Bunge and took away the mess, that was the end of it. In the developed world and progressive societies, as at the point in time when the symbol of authority, the mess of the speaker is taken away, that house stands gone. In fact, it is gone. In other countries that I don't think I'll mention, by June 25th, 26th, by 1st July, when the budget was should have taken effect, we should have had probably elections. Because, and sadly, Fred, is that kind of a conversation has continued to the extent that even the president told us that parliamentarians, mimi ninawajua, because the kind of business you are doing inside there is just dealing. You are not leading, you are only dealing. So much such that you have to be paid. He even went further and asked, "You 10 million. Do you know what happened to your 10 million? Where did it come from?" And this is a gentleman who even told us that he enjoys the benefit of raw intelligence, which means he knows that he knows who is carrying the money, how much was given to who and who. So you realize, therefore, that that august house, the honorable house called the legislature, has seemingly lost its sense. It's lost its authority. And so every manner of business that is being disseminated inside that particular house is shoddy. It is full of dishonor. And so I imagine, because a CS will not just appear into a committee, whether it's a water CS or agriculture or education or whoever, there is a whole lot of planning and organizing that goes on before that particular event happens. And I imagine probably Mheshimiwa Duale saying, wacha niende niwaonyeshe, kwani wao wanafikiri ni akina nani, you know? Because already there is some background that has already been set up. And I wonder, because in some of the meetings that I attend, and even at County Governance Watch, if you have a conflict of interest in a matter on the table, normally it is expected that you declare that interest. So that if Mheshimiwa Duale, as Kibagendi is saying, that we know that you and your people have clinics, and Mheshimiwa CS is also telling Anthony Kibagendi, it is you and your people will take you to court. Just declare through the chair that as this session starts, I own clinics. Part of them have been, deregistered, and 14 of them, for example, are still expecting some funding from SHA, so that we also begin to make leadership and governance look meaningful. I am imagining people who probably work in the Ministry of Health, how do they feel? Directors, technical people who are supposed to be listening to the cabinet secretary, whom probably he walked into that particular House committee meeting with some of them. And as I'm reading this page 6 of the Standard, it's telling me that actually all the members of the health committee walked out, except the chair, Mheshimiwa Ndiwa Martin Sowino, MP, and also Mheshimiwa Muge. Now, it means therefore that there is no quorum for you to be able to engage. So, Fred, we must really, as a country, begin to think through, and just speaking from what Justina was saying, in terms of what kind of leaders do we vote for. Yes. We might not change that now, and it's been a historical issue from our first, multi-party elections in many, many years back, 1992 ETC. But given what we have, vitu kwa ground as they are, leaders must begin to exercise leadership. Yes. And just ensure that you do the right things and ensure that the right things are done in the manner in which they are expected to be done.
We seem to have been, to have gotten to a point of lethargy that we look at systems that have failed completely, but we simply do not care. The Gen Zs last time, in their protests and in their breaching of parliament precincts, that was a clear indication that they've lost confidence in the houses of legislation. We moved on. They even were waiting for the IEBC to be reconstituted for them to recall members of parliament. They were unable to do so. We moved on. This level of disdain we are seeing from the CS towards legislators is indicative of how everyone views the houses of legislation. Do you agree that in as far as we are concerned, we do not have a parliament?
We don't have a parliament, and it doesn't go wrong, it starts wrong. Even the time when the president won and he started getting, super majority, wooing people so that he can control parliament, already the battle was lost. And that is why I always say that in as much as you're in a political party and your party wins, when it comes to now working, when it's hitting the ground, it's about now the president, an Atete executive, and you in the legislature, you do your role. But this issue, even you see MPs are saying, I'm in government because I need to get development. For what? These people don't understand their role. Let me tell you, Fred, it beats me when an MP says, I have to go to State House to beg for a road. Why? You're supposed to formulate a legislation where government will collect taxes, so that money will go to Kenha, Kura, and Kera. But what is your role, you there as an MP, wearing a helmet and a reflector? Are you a contractor? Are you an engineer? You are not. So it starts from the fact that Kenyans do not understand what is the role of an MP. Even look at an MCA's manifesto and a president. All of them promise, I will build a road. You're building as who? You're supposed to create the wealth for all these things. But I also want to add something that Mbugua was saying. Mbugua, let me tell you, Wanjiko is not innocent. Wanjiko is the criminal. I have looked for votes in this country and I know Wanjiko is the criminal. Because Wanjiko, when she's asked, what is your vision? She's visionless, she's radarless, she's planless. So when someone comes with some little 200 shillings there, Wanjiko will be enticed by this person. And then again, the issue is not even the performance. When you look at the CSAs who are there in health, you want to tell me Susan didn't know her job? You want to tell me the other lady didn't know the job? That Duale is the one who knows? No. It seems the issue is that SHA is being controlled away from the ministry. And that is why there's so much bitterness that someone, Duale has to really, fight this thing because they know that the control is from elsewhere. So even if you expect the president to crack the whip, he will not because he knows what is happening.
It's a level of entitlement. And before I give you an opportunity, Bwana Mbugua, to have the final word on this, let's take a short break. You're watching Morning Cafe. Duale, Bully in Chief. That's a big headline on the front page of the Standard.
is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe with me, Fred Indemoli. We continue discussing the drama that played out in Parliament yesterday as CS for Health Aiden Duale appeared before the Health Committee, and the drama that transpired leading to the failure by that committee to actually get any answers on the Social Health Authority from the CS. But according to the papers, they refer to Duale as a bully in chief, but I have a different opinion, that it is Parliament that has failed and ceded too much ground, therefore giving the CSs a level of entitlement and arrogance that they feel they can appear before any committee without consequence, and they do not have to answer any question. Do you agree with me, Bonambugwa, that that is a problem? That Parliament has totally lost moral authority to question anyone about anything?
Thank you very much. And let's not forget the history of Duale, the bully in chief. One of his most infamous statements is that he pesa siya mamako. You remember that? Kenya is our mother, and therefore whatever wealth that we generate ought to be shared to Kenyans as well. But let me say this. Justina has mentioned, or rather alluded to the fact that Wanjiku is visionless. Wanjiku has no vision. But it is the primary responsibility of leaders that we elect to empower people so that they can clearly understand the direction that this country ought to take. For example, if you are an employee of an organization, every organization has a vision and a mission. It is the work of the leaders of that organization to ensure that the employees embed and embrace the vision and the mission of that organization as well as their core values. But what is the problem with our leaders today? You see, Parliament ought to be like, would I say, what analogy? A prime mover. You can see a prime mover, the cabin of a long-haul truck. It is a prime mover in this system that is empowered. This is where the driver is, the fuel is, the navigation system is, and so on and so forth. It is a prime mover that determines direction. It is a prime mover that determines the load, the performance. It is a prime mover that determines the speed of the journey. It is a prime mover that determines how we get there. Because Wanjiku is like, if you allow me, with all due respect, like a trailer being pulled, being empowered by the prime mover. As leaders, it is their responsibility to create the vision, to communicate, to cascade, to help Kenyans embed the vision. The other day, somebody was asking me in a church, when we elected this regime, this careless regime, where was God? And that's a good question. Why did God intervene? And the thing is, the truth is, you see, unlike other animals, unlike other creatures in this world that God created, only human beings have the power of choice. Animals don't. And we have the power to decide that we are sick and tired of this regime. For example, come the next election. But my point is, Parliament has been disempowered. Like Justina mentioned.
Has been disempowered or has ceded its power?
Has ceded its power, probably. Has ceded its power, and Power is being played elsewhere. Money is being controlled not through our systems that are in place, but probably by a few individuals whose primary objective is to plunder this country.
All right.
Up shamelessly.
All right. Let's welcome Meshach Odede into this conversation. Meshach is a political commentator. Meshach, we are simply looking at what transpired in Parliament yesterday. It is just a symptom of a bigger problem. And without even focusing on the nitty-gritty of what CS Duale was to answer, it is perhaps the best picture of how our systems are working, that the executive has gotten to a point where they feel that answering questions to Parliament is not their job. We saw that most members of that committee had to walk out. The chairperson of that committee was accused of ceding too much ground to the CS. Do you agree that yes, it is Parliament's failure in as much as we are trying to label Duale as a bully here?
Thank you, Fred. Two things are important to me. Do we have any history of our Parliament executing anything like what we saw yesterday in terms of investigating a matter and coming to a conclusion, and this matter is actually either taken to court or somebody becomes responsible and answerable and pays for any crime? I do not know, including deaths. We have, even where people have been assassinated, and the only thing that our members of Parliament have done so well in, or our Parliament generally in the history, is coming out to gaslight Kenyans. We will leave no stone unturned. We will dig this matter to the end. We will. And then after the burial, it ends there and nothing happens. Even as we speak, this country, you remember not too long ago, lost a whole CDF, who is supposed to be a serious man in the ranks of governance of this country in terms of our security and all that. And it was lost in a very easy way that looks like a mechanical problem of a certain airplane or chopper, and that's it. We will leave no stone unturned and all that. Those things are nowadays like notes of a music. We lost a member of Parliament shortly before, and all that. So I do not even see a possibility of our Parliament investigating the Gen Zs of 2024. The Parliament, we talked about it here, did not even bother to form a committee to actually dig deep and know what really happened. Because ideally, they are parliamentarians and they know what the law says about the right to demonstrate, to picket and all that. But if a Kenyan die, do they have a concern? Can they also come out in rage like that? So one, the leadership of Parliament probably has not known what that Parliament is supposed to achieve for the nation. Then number two, the arrogance of a cabinet secretary comes because probably a cabinet secretary knows it is not Kenyans. For him, it is the president. So if the president has faith in him, it doesn't matter how much faith Kenyans don't have in him, because it is the president finally who says, and this for me, Fred, came because, again, no parliament has ever vetted anyone and said no to the president. So all the president, not just William Ruto, every president. So the day Parliament will go through that vetting process and make the people who are being appointed know that even though the president had faith in you, Parliament do not have faith in you, meaning the people. We are representing the people as Parliament. And so we speak on behalf of 40,000, 50,000 who elected you. So the people do not have any faith in you to hold this docket. And so you go home, and completely you go home. That is the day maybe cabinet secretaries will realize, I am not here for the president. I'm here actually for the people. The power has been donated through the president and to Parliament, and now I'm here. Then lastly, I also think parliamentarians are playing to the gallery, especially people like Honorable Kibagendi, because they know the mood of the country, they know what is popular right now, and so Kibagendi is simply playing a one-term, because it is also not too much of a secret to say that there is a way that these corporates and these hospitals work with our parliamentarians. I have an hospital. It is listed among the 1,000, 2,000 that has been deemed corrupt. I know Osido is a member of parliament who is a friend. I get to him, or we can collect 2, 3 hospitals, and we collect some cash and give him from the behind the curtain. And you are going to fight tooth and nail about this thing. And so the country will think you are actually fighting for them. So everybody will be there, yes, Osido is actually fighting for us. I mean, even if you were to fight for us, can you fight physically for us? Because what Kibagendi was showing us is almost fighting physically for us. I saw something below I mean, it is not just fighting for us.
Right.
And I'm not saying that is what happened, but I'm saying these are things that happens in this country. Many of the corporate guys reach out to members of parliament who they know can be really, really vocal, and then they tell you, talk about this thing. And they give you the money behind where nobody can have evidence of what you have been given. So those are all in the mix.
Yes. It is a total dilution of the quality of our democracy, the structures of our governance, the degeneration of what we felt should hold us together. This is what we see playing out. Has Parliament totally lost its moral ground? And has it ceded ground completely to the executive? We're looking at this, the drama that played out in the National Assembly yesterday before that health committee, as a symptom of an even bigger problem. Let's leave that for now. We'll switch gears and talk about matters politics. And what we've seen, I think the most political headline this morning is on the front page of the Star. Rifts emerge as Gachagua battles for Mount Kenya grip. That's on the spread. And I think this is the only other political headline I've seen on more than one paper. It's also there on the front page of the People Daily, where they question Gachagua's stance. He seems to have opened quite a number of battlefronts for himself. It is part of the stories covered here at TV47. Let's watch it. The fight or the spat between Gachagua and the Kirinyaga governor, Waiguru. Then we proceed with the conversation.
Tuesday afternoon, and the DCP party brigade was in Kirinyaga, a county where protests were held on Monday against the party leader and former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua. Gachagua claiming this is political bedroom and nobody can block him from addressing the locals.
Hii ni bedroom ya nani? Hii ni bedroom ya nani? Mtu anaweza sema mtu asiende kwa bedroom yake.
Over the weekend, Gachagua accused the county boss Anne Waiguru and her Embu counterpart Cecilia Mbarire of being a traitor to the people of the Mount Kenya region. The remarks sparked protest in the two counties on Monday. Demonstrators blocked the BC Kutus Road, accusing Gachagua of demeaning women in leadership.
Wewe governor and MPs ya Kirinyaga, nyinyi ndio adui kubwa ya watu ya Mwea na watu ya Kirinyaga.
Na ile kudhalilishwa tulionyeshwa jana na gavana Waiguru alitufanya aibu kubwa sana.
Na mambo ya huyu ambaye anakosea kina mama heshima, kama ni mwanaume, kama ni mwanamke, kama ni kijana, mambo yake ni kufinish.
The DCP brigade further accusing the county government of Kirinyaga of failing to address the plight of farmers, who he says must no longer be suppressed by a government they themselves elected. The visit by Gachagua on Tuesday has been translated as a show of might in the fight of the region's kinship. Mike Kagwango, TV47.
Yeah, even in as far as perception is concerned, the united opposition and the politics they play, including what is being played by the DCP party leader Gachagua, coming into question. And many people are wondering, is this the way to go? We have had times without number about how abrasive the former deputy president is in his politics. He is struggling to build a coalition. He's struggling at a time when he should be bringing people towards him and coalescing people, like-minded individuals. But as the days go by, we see more and more people taking a back step from him and saying, the way you do your politics is a bit too harsh. Do you agree that probably he should tone down in his approach?
Fred, you know, I'm saying you know because I know that you know that I am one of those people who have been very against the impeachment of the former deputy president, not in terms of the matter, but in terms of the issues. The kind of whether there was a threshold for the impeachment. But I actually thought that because since that time until now, I continue to meet many people who watch us on TV, watch me on TV, they read the things that I write, and some of them even reach out. And I remember some two quite elderly men who actually looked for my number and they called me and we had coffee, we sat and we had conversations, and they were like, we watch you on TV and it seems like you don't know this man. So we want to help you to understand. One of them was actually a principal of a school in one of the counties. And then we had conversations and he gave me experiences and many interesting things. Now I am saying this because I think that over time, I am beginning to see another face of Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua. Not that I know him in person. I don't know him. I don't know where he comes from. I know nothing about him, but only relate to him as a national leader or a former deputy president. But I think that moving beyond some of the cases or the accusations that Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua had, he needs people who can sit with him and help him understand the politics of this country. Because as a political leader, there are things that you cannot do. For example, that you want to be bringing people inside your fold, but you are also fighting both internally and externally. Fact of the matter is that he's a very abrasive politician from what I see, from what I hear, and of course from how he engages in politics, that he's able to, really push, and he has enough energy to push like the president himself. But that does not pay sometimes, especially when you look at the manner in which our politics is done in this country, where we talk about a threshold of 50% plus one. You need to work with people. And every time, even within the united opposition, because we read here, we listen to some of them, we sit in strategy meetings with some of them, not that we are working for the opposition, but we're just trying to make this country a better place. And they will share experiences where Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua has not lived to their expectations, even to the level of helping them also bring in other people. And that is why sometimes I think if you look at the president's party and what it's trying to organize, they even make jokes around some of the very heavyweight politicians, like in this context, Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, whom they will say, it is not a matter of if, it is only a matter of when. So they are waiting for him. And before we began this segment, you showed us a cartoon of them saying, of course, seated in a wheelbarrow, and Mheshimiwa Kalonzo was just seated, standing somewhere, and they were saying, we are only waiting for him to jump into the fold. It is because the kind of home that Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua is trying to build, actually that's the cartoon, is not drawing anyone closer. It is not helping them to build a formidable force. And therefore, Mheshimiwa Rigiji, and based on this particular story, because Kirinyaga and Embu is almost like the bedrock of Mount Kenya. And so he's asking, ini bedroom ya nani? We have to move forward and begin to look at how we unite everyone in this country. And because disunity is one of those issues that he was accused of, I think that Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua needs to learn certain lessons, particularly from the history of this country in terms of its political formations, political development, 2007, 2008, the lessons that we went through, the institutions that we have also built over time, like NCIC, really. I sometimes ask myself, where is Reverend Kobia and his team? There are comments that we continuously hear coming from politicians, and we ask ourselves, are they helping us to build this country to be a united one, or are we breaking it? And so Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua, I invite him to just take a stop and step back a little bit and reflect.
Yes. The movement, the united opposition, had really gained some momentum a few months back, but it would appear that now cracks are emerging. And the question now is Rigathi Gachagua the Achilles heel of this united opposition? Because now we're getting cheche za discontent hapa na pale. Unasikia kwa upande mmoja Matiang'i anasema hivi, on the other side DAP saying we can even bolt out of this, all because of one person and the nature or how he conducts his relationships.
It's a good thing that he's misbehaving. You know, you should not correct your enemy when they're self-cannibalizing. What I want to tell Mbugua, did you see Wanjiko shouting there? Wanjiko is not innocent, but it takes us back to
organized Wanjiko.
The history of what transpired from Sunday. The issue between Waiguru and Sicily and then Gachagua attacking them. Martha Karua was there. And I remember the 2023 Jubilee NDC when my former boss, Bangiman, really attacked Sabina. And Martha had the voice to tell Bangiman that you have failed, don't attack someone on the basis of jinsia, talk about their behavior. So I'm wondering why this time Iron Lady is not calling out former deputy president. And it makes me think that maybe this former deputy president, the impeached one, amewakalia kabisa, they cannot speak. But I want to tell them that they need to question themselves. He is telling us he has 7 million votes. Even if he doesn't vie, he might hold the one who will vie by the whatever you want to imagine. He's going to be controlling that person. So you better even bolt now and leave, go sell yourself as from a political party, you use your ideology, use your manifesto, and sell it to Kenyans, instead of forcing yourself in staying with someone who is disrespecting you. And I want to remind the united opposition, this is not marriage. This is not that bad marriage. You say, hey, let's stay here because of the children. We are not children. Us as Kenyans, when we sit, we want service delivery, we want vision, we want manifesto that is taking us to 2055, as the president is telling us. So if you feel that this man is not adding value or he's the weakest link, bolt and run and go vie with your own party, so that even Kenyans will have a different perspective of manifestos, a reach of democracy. You know, Kenyans will be saying, I am voting for Justina because she stands for this. Again, this issue of being told that Gachagua, nobody is interrogating what this DCP of his stands for. So it becomes an issue of personality over policy.
Hasn't that always been the sense? What does ODM stand for example, or UDA for that?
And that is where now these legacy politicians are failing. They are thinking that Kenyans are going to move, ODM is Baba, DCP is Gachagua, Martha. No, the youth now, and I'm challenging them, I'm still reminding them, can you go and register as voters? Because we must do it by the ballot and not by the bullet. Okay. You have to start questioning, what do you stand for? We are saying these two-term people have failed. We are not disagreeing. But what is the alternative? But telling us one term is obvious, Fred.
I think we all seem to agree that parties don't play any role in our politics apart from being vehicles. Our political thinking is around personalities. And that's why we're talking about this personality and his nature of politics. Because it's either Baba, Ruto, Gachagua, or another individual. It is not about the parties that they carry them. Yes? So the question is, no leader is expected to be perfect. And in fact, the biggest political leaders have been known to have very serious flaws. Are we being too critical of Rigathi Gachagua that this is just his nature and he may not necessarily be a bad leader, it's only that he's too abrasive?
The late Charles Giorgio said that politics is a dirty game. But the truth of the matter is that it is the players who are dirty. It is we, the politicians, who are dirty. When you look at our political parties in this country, they are private businesses, like the other speakers have said. They are personal entities. They have nothing to do with the common man or the country or liberation or fighting for justice and the economic empowerment of the people. It's a private entity. Because I don't know who taught us that, that leadership is about position of power, which gets into our head and we become so bloated in our ego that we deem ourselves like demigods. Nobody can speak to us. Nobody can correct us. Because this is what we are seeing in most of these leaders. But they know what they are doing. Because I think primarily they are being blinded by power. And when power is blinding them, in this power game, Wanjiko is just being used as a pawn. And I think it is high time that, like Justina was saying, Wanjiko sat back and asked herself or himself, exactly what kind of a leader do I want? And I think I want to appreciate the Gen Zs because they seem to have ignited this kind of reflection in our minds that we need to rethink the kind of leaders that we're choosing. And we need to ask ourselves, say, for example, when Bogo Mombi came up with this party, what is the feel? What is driving this party? Because we have reached a point where we realize that we are being used just to ensure that politicians achieve their personal, selfish goals. And therefore, it is high time, I would want to say that, because I think the primary purpose of a leader, honestly, irrespective of what has happened to you in the past, like a father in the family, like a mother in the family, you need to appreciate that all these are my children, and irrespective of what they have done to me, my primary objective needs to be to bring them together, to create a board. Because we must reject self-serving leaders. We must reject them because at the end of the day, and I have had this kind of narrative, it is my party. It is my party. I'm the one to decide whether Mr. Odede can come to this party or not. It is my party. And there are a lot of things happening in the political arena that even when you want to join that party, the intrigues, and even the kind of handouts that you need to give. Yeah? I think this level of arrogance that we have seen in our politicians, it doesn't help build a family. It doesn't help build a nation. The level of dishonesty, it is like sending a thief to catch a thief. And both of them know each other. And therefore, they will ultimately gang up to ensure that they perpetuate the very same strategies of, of exploiting the masses. I think there is a lot of apathy in us, the common man. There's a lot of apathy. And they exploit our apathy to ensure that they sneak in and continue to perpetuate this kind of leadership.
All right. Yeah. However negative some of these traits when Odede, the more extreme they are, the more exciting to the masses. Even the abrasive nature of someone's politics could just excite his support base. On one hand, we have President William Ruto, who now appears a bit more amiable, extending an olive branch to his old rivals. On the other hand, we have Rigathi Gachagua, who's creating new enemies every single day. What is your assessment of this?
Yeah. One, we've seen President William Ruto reaching out to all his 2022 opponents, that is led by Raila, Uhuru, now Gideon, and I guess even others. This is my honest assessment. William Ruto right now does not have any reason to have beef with these people. Number one, he claimed in 2022 that these people were sons of who is who in this country, and so he called them dynasty, and his beef was the dynasty, sons of who and who is who, were ganging up against him, a son of Mama Sarah, a nobody, according to him, and a son of some peasant, a son who went to school without shoes. They do not want him to ascend to power. And now he is in power. So why should he have beef again with them? Because he's now joined the power. So he's a member of the club. So if anybody seated home thinks that William Ruto should actually continue having beef with the dynasty, it's a lie. Even if I were him, why would I still continue having beef? Whatever they were stopping me from, I already have. So why should you have any beef? So he reaches out, and that explains why he is okay reaching out to Gideon, reaching out to Uhuru, Raila, and everybody, and talk about whatever they want to talk about. But coming to Rigiji was a wrong choice. I think everybody needed to just accept, including William Ruto. Rigiji was a wrong choice of a deputy president from the word go. But because he was serving purpose then, Ruto decided to go with him. When his purpose was over, he needed to find a way of, because the purpose he served came to pass, and he was now becoming a thorn. And that was the right time for William Ruto to discard. And that happens to anyone in politics. That happens to any political friend who anybody has. So one thing I probably differ with is when we group all the political parties and imagine and start believing that they stand for nothing, and hence we should not even go for any election if that is our feeling combined as a country. But the question is...
You feel like some political parties do actually
I do feel
ideology.
like there are very good political parties, and ODM is one of them.
Give us an example of the ideology.
Because Fred, this is something I will not shy talking about. There is this line that when people have gone for their wrong choices and they have failed, instead of accepting that, yes, we made a wrong choice here, you are right, Osido. Instead of accepting that, we start bringing this line that all these people are the same. All these people, that's our tired line, it's not working for some of us. In 2024 June, when there was issues around the finance bill, was ODM not part of the parties who said no to the last minute in that parliament? Tell me if they did. Why didn't you ask, what does ODM stand for? But because you are God-given UDA members of parliament sided with that bill, we now do not want to accept. Instead, we bring this third line that all these people are the same. They are not the same.
My contention is that ODM and UDA now they work together. If at all they stood for something, would they be working together?
They do work together after all those had happened. But at that point,
does ideology change with time?
How has the masses paid ODM for standing with them?
Question.
Zero. When ODM are standing with them, they are on their extreme end. And when ODM says, okay, this is your choice, ODM stands for nothing. That's a lie.
Allow me to question this. Because
today as we speak...
allow me.
Yeah.
When you talk about ideology and political parties, I'm talking about places like the UK, where the Conservatives stand for a particular thing.
Yes.
The Labour Party stands for the other. Things and policies and ideologies that do not change over time. That they cannot, at one point, become grey and the Conservatives start looking like the Labour Party.
Yes.
Or vice versa. The same thing in the US, the Democrats and the Republicans. You do understand that. How come in Kenya, ideology changes over time? That someone and an ideology you did not stand for last year, this year you profess the same and you're now convinced this is the right way to
go. Tell me, what ideology right now does the Democrats stand for? When they gave their ideology and the people of America chose Trump and his party, they are quiet.
They are very liberal.
Trump is working on his things. So what do you want ODM to do when you went to the ballot and chose the right person from God according to you? You want ODM to die for you?
No.
Let me come to you. No, just
it is down to personalities and not parties.
You are not even giving me a chance to talk here. When they went to parliament and said no to the finance bill, did you sit there and ask the question whether they stand for anything or not? You didn't. Only when they are not giving you what you want, then you are beginning to ask questions. When you say ideologies change, when did Baba's ideology or ODM ideology about justice change? He said in the 90s, no to unjust killings, no to police brutality. He still says no. Even when he was with William Ruto in Homa Bay, he looked at him in the eye and said, these killings must stop. He pushed the agenda of compensation to the victims of police brutality, including today. So when did anything change? You don't see that, you don't say that. You only want to say what makes anybody else excited out there and group everybody. Today, Sifuna speaks on behalf of that party. And he has stood against a lot of these things. Why are we not saying ODM stands for anything? No, right now, because Sifuna speaks this or Babu speaks this ills, we want to seclude them and separate them from ODM and find our ODM that we are comfortable with. Why is a Secretary General now not part of ODM and not ODM?
Now that you brought
for the party, and Raila has confirmed that Sifuna speaks for the party.
Now that you brought that,
is ODM still not standing for anything?
Thank you, Bwana Odede. Now, because you brought it up, let's discuss that as we come to the end of that discussion. Ideology. And where our parties stand. Do you agree with Bwana Odede that yes, there are some parties that have ideologies that can be identified and sustainable, and that is what we are seeing that they are living up to.
Fred, the truth of the matter is that before and during an election in this country, we have parties that actually trout up their ideologies. ODM stands for social democracy. And UDA also told us that they stand for social democracy. Jubilee told us. So a majority of registered political parties in this country are largely social democratic. But beyond the swearing in, those ideologies are dead, even up to now. And Mesh is my good friend, and we always agree on many things, but I'm not scared to disagree with him that as we speak today, it is very difficult to identify an ideological political party in this country. And I know that as we move towards the elections and the campaigns start, those ideologies are going to come up, and we will see manifestos. People like Kevin Osido will be invited to go and draft and write. And
you said something curious. Are you saying that most of these parties are more or less identical in as far as the ideology is concerned?
They are identical.
Probably that's the reason why they can easily merge with each other.
And it's because they are organized by the same people. Mm-hmm. If you realize that, for example, ODM has done a manifesto, and people like Professor so-and-so, Dr. so-and-so, Kevin Osido, etc., Justina were part of the drafters of that particular manifesto, and you also want to do your pomp launch of a manifesto, you just call them. And so you work for ODM during the day, and you work for UD at night. And
so there's no difference.
Yeah, by the following day, you deliver your manifesto, and that is the reality on the ground. And therefore, it is very difficult to even blame Wanjiku, because that is the kind of the options that we have. It is the vision that is set up from the backbone of the political party that is visionless. It has zero ideologies, and most of them are copy-pasted.
So the differentiating point is simply the personalities leading this party, and not the colors of the party or the party itself.
Our politics in this country are personal, they are personified.
Which is unfortunate, and not to say that because we've been doing it, it is right. Fred, it's about time we start this conversation. If we have been focusing on personalities for the last 62 years after independence, where has that gotten us? You know, we need to take a stock as a country and see where are we going. Something else I think makes Kenyans or makes people think political parties are owned by individuals. The process of registering a political party, very rigorous. And in other countries like Germany, you can do it like even a business registration name. And after the election, if they don't get people, it's just scrapped from the system. We need to make it easier. We need to make it cheaper, because also registering a political party is capital intensive. So you might end up saying we have an ideology, but when you don't have the money, and I come to Fred, you give me money, I have to bow down to you people. So even any policy proposal I'm putting forth in the party has to be friendly to you people who funded the party. So I think it also goes back to how we register them. I'd like Odede to also tell us a character of a good and bad deputy. Is it a good one? A good one is one who kisses, you know what? Something else, working together. When Odede, you say that these people are working together. Working together, when you look at Political Parties Act, it says that the role of political parties is to shape and influence public policy. So when you tell us they are working together, are they working for Kenyans? Remember, even a mosquito is working, Bwana. A mosquito is working. So what is the impact of this working? And that is why, even when the president is saying, I'm pulling this one, I'm pulling dynasties, he should remember that Kenyans have moved away from saying, Fred is our person and ako serikali.
Have they?
Kenyans, I have. You know, the moment the finance bill touched the middle class, that when you're importing your car, there are taxes that have increased. When you're going to hospital, you have to pay this. Capitation, there is no capitation. You have to now go into your little money to add school fees. I can assure you, Kenyans have seen the correlation between these leaders.
Allow me to challenge this notion, because political parties also are required to have membership. How much of this membership of political parties is involved in the level of decision making that we are seeing at the national level? Isn't it simply the personalities that we are talking about that go behind the curtains and agree without any decision making at the party level?
Fred, to be involved as a member of a party, I even asked Bogwa which party he belongs to. You have, it's not only saying I'm a member of this party, it's about annual subscriptions, it's about you going for meetings, it's about even you giving your view in terms of policies that they're shaping. So are Kenyans ready to even invest their little money that you're told subscription for this party annually is 30,000? Are you willing to do it?
We see many people who are life members of KANU. What happened to that? Because as it is right now, it is simply about the individuals. That's why we are even probing regarding Gachagua's character or his abrasive nature. We're not looking at his party.
Yeah.
We are looking at his character. If at all the party was stronger, we would be considering the ideology of the party. But now we cannot do that because it's simply how good is this leader, anakasirika sana, is he powerful, ametoka familia gani. Isn't that the level of our politics?
Kidogo, let me blame the media. Kidogo too. You know why? The media should be questioning him. Beyond telling us one term, what is your alternative and what do you stand for?
And I'm asking those questions on behalf of the media this morning.
I'm actually wondering, have we seen a party in this country whose heart and soul really is driven by the needs, you know, of the citizenry, of Kenyans for that matter? Because, for example, Odede has told us that we have seen leaders shifting their ideologies to go and cooperate with parties whose ideologies only yesterday vivid or very, very rigorously opposed. A case in point, for example, when you're talking about who owns the party, who makes decisions. When we see a leader, for example, where the citizens are waiting for him to come and present his nomination papers, and they see him as the symbol of their constituency, and then he finally, you know, melts out. The question is, where was the decision made? Who made the decision? Who was involved in all this? Nobody. The truth is, and we know this, and it is good for us to share this, that most of our leaders, if not all, even the ODM, when they go to partner with the government in power, it is not because of the interests of Kenyans, it is not because of the interests of the people. Number one, it is because they want to preserve leaders want to preserve their dynasty. Leaders want to preserve and have security more often for their ill-gotten property. And therefore, they are looking to support the government so that, number one, they can have more opportunities for business that is very clearly known. And number two, they can also preserve what they have. And I think, honestly, the only thing we have achieved with this blood-based government, the thing is, has it made the promises that, for example, UDA made in their manifesto to be actualized? Not at all, not at all. Everybody is crying. Yesterday, I had coffee with a lawyer, a friend of mine, and he lost his brother, elder brother, who was actually a professor last year, because of very, very simple things of going and SHA is not working, and you are in hospital, you cannot immediately access your cash, the money in the account, and you're told you have to, and so on and so forth. So I think this aspect of deceiving the masses that it is about me, that it is about creating better governance, doesn't stick any longer. It doesn't at all.
Yes. Final word on this one, Odede. I know there's so much you need to respond. They've raised a few questions about your sentiments.
Yeah, first, Mbugwa is giving me the vibe of a church who gave us this government. When he told us this is God-given, and I mean, you look like a preacher and you actually talk like a preacher.
But I'm not one, I can assure you.
They told us for the first time the church has a candidate in this election. That's the vibe you're giving me. And you're actually repeating
Have I mentioned the church anywhere?
No, you haven't. You're actually repeating the same thing I've just said. When a choice you made flopped, then you want to make everybody dirty. Like, all these people are the same. They are just, they are ill-gotten wealth, what. Those lines have been there all the time. When we know we have made some bad choices, it is good to just come out and say, for sure we made a bad choice.
That's true.
I mean, that is it. You don't have to go round and give us the vibe that everybody is bad because your choice turned out to be bad. So I will still stand here and say, if there are some people who have fought for the rights and freedoms, We cannot take them away because the leaders we have chosen have turned out to be bad now. Even those ones we can't recognize anymore. No, my leader has fought for the rights and freedoms, and it remains there. So whether you want to say ill-gotten wealth, you know one, you don't know. You just need to make everybody dirty so that it fits your bill. Justina, a good deputy is simple. A good deputy knows I am 1 inch away from presidency. I am part and parcel of the symbol of unity of a country. So a good deputy will not look at me in the eye and tell me that nimeweka mitego, and so if I saw anyone in the line of people who are being given jobs and he or she is one who did not campaign or was not part of us, namtoa kwa line to bring other people. A good deputy knows that is not somewhere I should go when I'm already given number 2 citizen. So anytime, God forbid, but anytime I can be a president of this country, and how will it work? And then we also need to know realities. I think reality is what we are missing. Ruto could have campaigned against Raila and everybody else, just the same way Raila campaigned against Ruto and everyone else. But I dare tell you, even if Raila was in State House, he would have still want to talk to other leaders. Because you don't have everything. You still need to talk. Even Justina and his boss, if they would have been president, I am sure today they would have wanted to talk to other leaders. They can't say, now that Kenyans have given us this seat, we don't want to see anybody else and any other political party. So let's not gaslight Kenyans that for leaders to talk, it means other leaders have abandoned their post, and so it is all bad. Because if you say that, this coming election would only have 2 serious candidates who one of them will win elections as the president. Either William Ruto defending his seat, or the united opposition have gotten as someone. And those someones will also go there, and I could tell you, mapema, whether united opposition gets a candidate and wins election, they will still talk to William Ruto and they will still talk to Raila Odinga. So why should we sit here and bury our heads in the sand that we are now going to get someone who forever will never talk to Raila and will never talk to Ruto? That's a lie.
True. And I think we've agreed. We're talking more about individuals and personalities, not even about parties. Yeah. Yes? So we do agree that parties are simply... No, I want us to move on.
Odede is telling us that a good deputy condones and preserves impunity, waiting for his turn to come.
And doesn't have a mind of that.
He doesn't have a mind of his. It's just a parrot.
Yes.
It's just a puppet.
I want us to dock there for that debate.
Are you telling me Rigiji did not have impunity?
Allow me, because of time.
Impunity even
because of time, we need to make our final comments. But there's one thing I want us to talk about, and that debate I know cannot end here today. Parties versus personalities, and why are we talking more about Rigathi Gachagua's abrasive nature of politics and not about his party and his ideologies. I think that was the drift of the discussion. Finally, let's come back to the city of Nairobi. Once again, the president comes out and admits that there's a problem in Nairobi. He singled out garbage collection and muddy roads, that's his words. And we go back to the same question. We've seen this happen before. Even President Uhuru Kenyatta came back to Nairobi, even sent an MS here. Are we seeing a repeat of the same? From a county governance watch perspective, and it's a question we've asked over and over again as you make your final comments, is it time we really rethink how the city of Nairobi or the county of Nairobi is governed? Is it time to remove it from the same system of devolution as other counties?
Fred, the biggest question, and you've really raised a number of questions there, but 2 things from us who are in devolution. Number 1 is the structure of leadership, or getting the person who heads Nairobi City County. So how do we raise a governor for Nairobi City? And then number 2 is looking at the positioning of Nairobi. And if you compare Nairobi to countries like Singapore, even Kigali here, you go to New York, UK, among other cities, big cities, the manner of administration and management of those cities is totally different. And so I agree with the president, like we have said many, many times here and in other places, that we have to rethink how to manage and administer Nairobi. And especially this is really the capital of the nation. Of course, there are conversations of changing the capital from Nairobi to Isiolo to other places and many other conversations. But as things stand right now, Vitukwa ground is that Nairobi, the management is not doing very well. And it goes beyond, those muddy roads and garbage to even the kind of real estate, the businesses that are coming up in those particular estates. It goes into looking at even the playing grounds for kids in estates when those pieces of land are being grabbed. Mheshimiwa Sakaja had a very good idea of coming up with barrows, which is really what other capitals are doing elsewhere, wherever they are. But the difficulty in assessing why these things fail is not that we are not able to. Fact of the matter is that the leadership of the city, so I am actually hitting at the back of the leadership of Mheshimiwa Sakaja, who is my good friend. Once in a while we send WhatsApp to each other and I ask him, what is this thing that is happening? And it is really disturbing that people like the president have now to reduce and lower themselves to be talking about Nairobi as a county, of course a city, but as a county. So yes, we have to rethink about the leadership of Nairobi City County. We have to rethink about how we administer services within the residents of Nairobi. And it's because, again, if you look at the demographics of Nairobi, this is a city that is almost 6.3 million people during the day. And at night, we are talking 4.8 million. It cannot be run like any other cities. Yes. Nairobi is one of the biggest on-source revenue earners, and even equitable share, the monies that Nairobi receives from the national government is incomparable to any other counties. So we cannot begin to look at Nairobi as it is going down the drains in that manner. And therefore, many things that have to happen. Number one is the number of counties that we have. Number two is whether we want to learn from NMS and strengthen that kind of an engagement. And then what would that mean when you have a governor and that also has a whole government, and then you have an NMS or whatever form of structure that also has its own, officers, institutions, etc. And then in the wake of public wage bill, coupled with the debt crisis that Kenya finds itself in, what kind of a conversation will this have to be, and what kind of nature will it take?
Okay, thank you for that. And the Constitution already provides for intervention by the national government in instances where county governments find themselves unable to perform some functions. But the president is very clear. He talks about garbage. We're not talking about any other function. It's about garbage collection. It's about muddy roads. Do you think that those are issues that the national government should really be intervening on, even at the level of a capital city?
No, I don't think those are issues. It's not really important. But somebody told us that the president's friend is the one who does garbage collection. So maybe it's a personal interest. But the issue here, Fred, is not about even Nairobi. We need to rethink how we fund devolution. These issues of counties sitting back and waiting for the national government to send them their annual disbursement of the money that is sent is counterproductive, because most of this money ends up going to recurrent expenditure. So we have to think, how do we fund? If national government is indeed sending money, then it should go to projects that allow the counties to have their own income generating activities. So this is where Kenyans must also start voting in. People with a brain, people with a vision. Somebody will say, in Baringo County, this is our stronghold in terms of competency, and this is what we want national government to fund, so that people can say, this is what you are making beyond receiving money from national government. Number two, Nairobi voters have always done this mistake of saying, Sonko atatoa Kidero, Igathe is not relating to the ground, so we want Sakaja. But I want to remind them that you disregard experience, and then later you start complaining. And finally, if the economy was working, you see those two people I've mentioned, one would have been a musician, a musician who is thriving, that is Sakaja, because that was his first career. He's told us he has songs on YouTube. And even Sonko would be a male socialite, because that is what he loves. Unfortunately, the fact that the economy is not working, it attracts people who have the money to get them there, because that is the only sector that is thriving. But if other sectors are thriving, those who come to politics are those ones who are called to serve. So that you're saying this is an indictment on Governor Sakaja directly? Of course. Of course. All right.
And they saved him when he was about to be impeached.
I'm very surprised that the president would lament about the level of, leadership in Nairobi County. I would be very surprised. Just the other day, the MCAs expressed themselves in respect to what they wanted to see going forward. They wanted to impeach Sakaja because the level of service is deplorable. Who is it that interfered to ensure that this perpetuation of rotten leadership continues? Who interfered? It's a blood-based government. The president was part of it. And therefore, I think this is hot air. It's just political. Number two, it's like hunting, running with the hare, and you're hunting with a hound. Because when Kenyans express themselves in respect to what kind of leadership and services they expect, based on the promises that leaders gave them during the campaign period, what happens? We see the national government interfering because they know, the president knows what is at stake for him personally. Raila knows what is at stake for him personally. And therefore, Sakaja will not go. And therefore, like we said earlier, it doesn't matter what level of service. Because, honestly, when Kenyans or Nairobians say that we are not satisfied, we are not happy with the level of service that is being expended to us, they should be given a chance. And we have seen this happening in many areas in this country. Therefore, then my thinking is, the president is not serious about it.
He's not being genuine.
Yeah?
Is he being genuine?
No, he's not being genuine. He's not being genuine. I think there's some level of, what would I say? Just trying to play with the psychology of the masses that I am concerned. But truly, behind the curtain, is different.
Bonodede, what's your assessment?
I think we need to not compare Nairobi to other counties within the country. Nairobi needs to be compared to other capitals, other cities, and see. Because if we try to compare Nairobi to other counties within the country, we belittle Nairobi and then we reduce the ambitions of Nairobi and then it will still stand tall and we actually get comfortable and think something is working when totally nothing is working. Let's just imagine that we can compare Nairobi to New York and other major cities in the world. Then we will see how low Nairobi has become. And then as a people, it would give us an opportunity to go to the ballot knowing what we want in terms of a governor and how we want Nairobi to be governed to match the capital that it is. When we still compare Nairobi to Migori, Isiolo County, whatever county, we make Nairobi stand tall and we make Nairobi look really great because everybody comes to Nairobi and think they have gone to a far city, a major city. So two, we need to elect the governor of Nairobi based on a few things, might not be all, but we probably say, Fred, we want you to achieve only 3 things. And then once you stabilize that, we will see whether to elect you again to take another thing. So one, the only worst thing about Nairobi is that waste management. If somebody can sort out 2 things in Nairobi for now, we know ambition is big, but if for now somebody can stabilize the decongestion of the city, the transport, the traffic, and then the city is clean, we can say this is trusted. If we give this one another chance, we can now sort out other things. But then the last thing, the rot in Nairobi is also big in terms of corruption within that city hall. And it was built way when it was city hall until now. So we cannot deal with it at the level of one person as the governor. It needs more to be done.
Let me ask you a question, and this is the final word, Kabisa, because is it a problem of the design of the devolved system of government that is not sustainable in as far as Nairobi is concerned? Should we have a different system that runs the city? Others have talked about a city manager away from the governor, someone who runs an urban capital city away from the governor, that the governor has more to think about apart from just Nairobi. Do you think
that worked for Kisumu, for example, because that is a capital plus other rural county, sub-counties. But Nairobi is purely the city. Every sub-county in Nairobi is the city. So I personally do not think we need a city manager away from, because the whole Nairobi County is city. And the governor is here with his CECs. When we talk about Kisumu and city manager is simply looking at the capital, which is the city, but there is Nyakach, which is purely rural. There is Muhoroni, purely rural, Seme rural, everything else rural. But Abala, for example, is now just looking at the city, which is Kisumu. Nairobi is not in that kind of setup. Every sub-county in Nairobi is part of the city.
Yes, definitely. The situation in the capital city of Nairobi, a big discussion this entire week, especially after the president came out and singled out the issue of waste management as well as the dirt on our roads. Those are the two things that singled out. And one wonders, is it time for the national government to intervene in the running of the city? Thank you so much, Mesha Kodede, political commentator, Mbogwa Mombi, leadership consultant, Justina Wamai, champion for economic democracy, and Kevin Osido, governance specialist, for your time at TV47. This morning, helping us look at the big headlines today, another sweep at the headlines, People Daily, inside Ruto's attempt to win the 2027 election and how he's playing that out. Drama bungeni, habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Business Daily, KQ facing cash penalties for traveler flight delays. And the Standard, Duale, bully in chief. I think this is a very big conversation, especially coming from that drama that we saw in Parliament yesterday. The Star goes political. Rifts emerge as Gachagua battles for Mount Kenya grip. Alisema Kirinyaga ni bedroom yake. And killer linked to State House, as well as the president in the military fatigues for the first time. Very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Fred Indemuli, and that is the state of the nation.
Something is missing.
It looks like someone was